Hello. Hello, everyone, as I fix my headphones, and welcome to 4D Sports Talk here at 1320 AM, WARA, and online, all one word, 4dsportstalk.com. I'm Catherine Conley, aka KC, with Sean Sylvia, Justin Ferreira, aka Sportsmaster, Caleb Tremblay, and we have a special guest here, Antron Peebles. He's filling in for Dom for a while. He unfortunately has like a back injury from a work-related something like that. So we're thinking of you, Dom.
Yeah. Well,
all right, just gotta make sure we have no dead air here.
Right.
So we're awaiting our guest, Pat Cronin, who is the 4D Sports Talk Lifetime Achievement Award winner from this year. So if you want to call in, 508-222-1320. That is 508-222-1320. And please log on to our YouTube channel, all one word, 4D Sports Talk. All right, so anyone else have anything they like to add, like before our guest come in?
yeah, I mean, I just wanted to say shout out to everyone that was at the award show, everyone on this table. I think it just went really well. So I was excited to get my first 4D Sports Talk ceremony under my belt. So
yeah, it was a fun time. Yeah.
Definitely a fun time. I want to say shout out to all my 4D Sports Talk listeners, and I want to say thank you all for letting me be part of you all's great radio station, radio program. Defining high school sports coaches and all of those. Lifetime Achievement Award, Pat Cronin, great event. First time that I was part of the event. This is Antron Peebles, and I thank you all for letting me step into you all's humble abode.
Very stoked to have you here.
Yes, ma'am. I appreciate it. Definitely. Good times.
All right, so what's going on? Anything they like to share?
NFL draft last night, huh?
NFL draft's going, yeah, and got a lot of. It was great. Me myself, I'm a fellow volunteer, University of Tennessee volunteer, so I'm an alumni of the University of Tennessee, and it's always good to see these young men that just got out of high school, and what we report on, right? High school kids and girls, boys, high school sports, and some of these guys are 2 years out of high school, 3 years out of high school rather. They got to go to college for 3 years, and now they're making the big money, man.
I know.
Jalen Hyatt, I think he may have went to the Cleveland. Was it Cleveland Browns?
I think it was
Cleveland Browns.
Yeah.
Cleveland. Like he went to Cleveland Browns, and then we had another guy, receiver. I think he went to. I can't remember what. It's so many. Kids.
I know you're volunteered Hendon Hooker. He ended up going, third round. He went to the Detroit. That should be interesting.
Very interesting, man. Very interesting. He'll be behind. Who's the head starting quarterback?
Jared Goff.
Jared Goff.
Absolutely. And he has somebody to learn from, and he'll work on his toolage. So it'll be great, man. It'll be great.
Yeah.
And this honestly, I don't mean to take the floor, but this is where it starts from, man. High school.
Oh yeah.
High school,
Yeah, everything has to have a beginning there. So
absolutely, and being standing in and helping Dom, man. I just here in Massachusetts, I think is real pertinent for us to find these young men that doesn't get that notoriety. And we get Pat Cronin coming here, and I got a couple of questions to ask him, because I want to know, how can we highlight these kids in Massachusetts in the northeastern area, because I think they don't get highlighted enough, to give them the opportunity to come back to the community and share this with the friends and family, and give other people other kids inspiration. It's real big. This is awesome.
Yeah, I'm excited. He should be here in a few minutes, I'm assuming.
Right.
But I was intrigued by the speeches that all the award winners were giving. Everyone had a different perspective of how they got into coaching or playing, and everyone was real well spoken. It was just like it was exciting to me, especially like you were touching upon, seeing people that care about the youth development and, wanting to see their players go forward and strive for more. So I think it was just really like admiring to see everyone come together and celebrate that moment.
Right. It was awesome. It was awesome. I met a lot of coaches that I didn't really, know because, being that I'm from, the South, I've been here for a while, but I haven't really tapped in back into the sports and the coaches here in Massachusetts. But, I hear them through my kid playing, high school coaches, Boston, the new coach at Brockton High School, which is Big Wiggy.
Yep.
Congratulations to you, Big Wiggy, coming back to Massachusetts and coaching those Boston. What are they? The Boxers.
Yeah, Brockton Boxers.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, I think he went to East Boston though. He played at East Boston, right?
I'm not too sure, but you know more than I would.
Yeah, I think he played at East Boston, and so congratulations to you, Wiggy. Hopefully you get those Brockton Boxers back on the map and, get them working and beating up on those Severian teams and Catholic Memorials and all those big high school teams, man. Yeah. Congratulations to you, young man.
Yeah, and congratulations to all the winners from the awards ceremony.
Yeah.
You all get a shout out.
I want to give a shout out to Miss Sarah?
Sarah Russo.
Miss Sarah Russo.
Yeah.
Thank you for calming my nerves at the show. Sorry about that. I laughed a little loud, but
it's okay.
Thank you for calming my nerves. And when I was doing the hosting job, Miss Russo, thank you. You are awesome. You are great, and I appreciate you.
Yeah.
And for doing a great job and kind of calming my nerves down up there in front of the 4D Sports Talk family.
Oh, I guess our guest is here right now.
Mr. Cronin.
Mr. Cronin.
He's in the building, folks. And like you said, if you have any questions or want to call in, 508-222-1320, WARA 1320 AM. Give us a call. Ask some questions. Talk with us.
Oh, yeah. Come on in.
Mr. Pat Cronin. He's in the building.
The man himself.
Here he is.
The man himself, the myth, the man, and the legend.
Man of the hour.
Absolutely. Good morning, good afternoon, young man. Mr. Cronin.
Sorry, I'm a little late here.
That's all right. We were just talking about you.
We'll tax you on that, Mr. Cronin. Get some of those awards back.
Okay.
How you doing, sir?
Fine, thank you.
Pat Cronin.
Oh, and we got a call.
Yeah.
Already.
Oh, we got a call already, huh?
Wow.
They ready for you, bro.
Hello, caller. You are first to appear on 4 Deep Sports Talk. Who am I speaking with?
Catherine, this is Dominic.
Hey, Dom. How are you doing?
Good. Did someone go out to the parking lot and get Mr. Cronin?
Yep, he's actually in the studio right now.
Hi, Dominic.
Excellent. Hey, Pat.
I found it.
I'll let you guys know.
Okay.
I'm going to take a quick break. I'll call you guys in a half.
Absolutely.
All right.
All right.
Dominic
Bye-bye.
Damiano. Can't stay away, can he?
No.
So there's our fearless leader, as Lucy Cabral likes to call him. Like I said before, he has an unfortunate back injury from a work-related stuff thing. So let's get back to our guest, Pat Cronin. So I wanted to ask you, what did it mean to you to win this award?
Well, it was, a great honor. Obviously, it happened so quickly. After 50 years, it sounds strange to say that. After 50 years, it happened so quickly. But after 50 years of coaching, and then to get notified, when Dominic called me, my wife was there, and I told her, and then I told my kids and so forth. It's again, when people stop me since then, and they've seen it and heard about it, and I always have the same answer. We work in a profession and in a job where the success of our players and our kids are really, that's what we're all about. And I've always maintained that. It's great to be in a profession that you love and enjoy every day, which I have as a teacher and a coach. And I've always seen the baseball field as an extension of the classroom. But so when you get an award like this, it's really the kids' award. It's like all the wins they said I had. I said, well, I didn't really win any of those games. The kids won all those games. So I love it because they can spread it around and it draws the attention to all the kids from East Bridgewater who played baseball and all the kids from Whitman Hanson who played baseball. It's a wonderful thing.
What was the best highlight of your coaching career?
Well, that's hard to really say. Every day was a highlight for me. I mean, the obvious ones are when you're in the state finals in 1993 and Michael Hill was on the mound up in out in Worcester. It was just a wonderful game against a Clinton team that had gone 40-4 in the previous years, and it was our first real move through the tournament. We lost in extra innings. It was a heartbreaker, but nevertheless, it was just a milestone moment for us. And, I find it ironic now that Michael was signed by the Chicago White Sox after he graduated from Bentley, where he led the nation in home runs as a senior. And now he's in his first year at Bentley University as their head coach. So many other great players who played on those teams. That's the obvious one, but we've had numerous sectional championships and games and individuals that have gone on to do great things. But I always say, look, the best part of coaching for me was when I went to practice every day and we had something set up where kids could learn and we had competition and drills so they got better. And then the real moment was when you saw all of that come to fruition, when the kid learned to drive a two-strike pitch to right field or threw that 3-2 curveball for a strike and struck a kid out and see the look on his face when he walked back off the field saying, yeah, I know how to do that now. Because, as I've always said as a teacher, that teaching's no good. You can have all the greatest knowledge in the world, and I've spent a lot of time hounding the best people. Even when I was a kid, I always wanted to play ball with the big boys so I could see what they were doing, But if you can't pass that along, I don't really think you're an effective teacher. The whole idea with knowledge is to give it to someone else and make them the owner of it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So we're going to take our first break, and when we come back, we're going to continue to talk to our 2023 4 Deep Sports Talk Lifetime Achievement Award winner, Pat Cronin. We will be right back with more right after these messages.
Hello, everyone. This is Justin Ferrer, aka the Sportsmaster. Welcome back to 4 Deep Sports Talk here at 1320 AM Attleboro. We are highlighting the 2023 Achievement Award winner, Pat Rowland. And my question for you is, what do you think is the best part of winning your award?
Well, I think the best, again, I think the best part, not to repeat myself, is that it's a shared award. It's an award that focuses on the work of a lot of people. Primarily, as I said that evening, the kids. The East Bridgewater kids and the Whitman-Hanson kids are very proud of the fact that their coach won that award, and they know that they had a large part in it. And I also point out to everybody else, it's the people who do the fields, the administrators who have to deal with schedules, and the athletic directors who help us out. I think it's a joint award, and it's a wonderful thing for you folks to do this. And it's really nice that it highlights the importance of giving young people an opportunity to be successful.
I also have a question. This is Caleb here. Who inspired you to start coaching?
Yeah, that's a great question. I grew up in Whitman. I go back to my father, of course. Before I could walk, probably, like a very common story. He took me out in the backyard and threw a ball to me, and he'd pass with me every day. He worked at Armstrong Cork Company in Braintree in a factory, and he'd work the various three shifts. And whatever shift it was, if we were there, he'd put his bag down sometimes before the bag that he had his lunch, and before he even went in, and he'd pass with, there were first of 3 children in our family. I'm the oldest of 9, were boys. And he would just take the time always to do it. But then I go to the community, when there was a man named Mr. Thompson, that's how we knew him. He took me down to the Little League when I was 8 years old. And back in those days, they didn't have any minor league or any of that. You played with the 12-year-olds if you made the Little League at 8 years old. And I didn't know anybody, and he brought me down. And I remember him yelling at me and saying, "Hey, Cronin," and from about, it seemed point blank, he threw a baseball at me as hard as he could, and I caught it. And I made the team on the spot right there. The name of the team was Independence. It was the Independence Bank in Whitman Center. Big orange socks and an orange uniform. And then eventually became Mutual Federal Bank when they built a new bank. So I started playing Little League and started at second base when I was 8 years old for 5 years until I was 12. And I think all of those people that I dealt with and worked with, Mr. Yetton, I remember in Whitman, his son Peter went on to become the football coach at Bentley and played hockey at BU. All of the people that you run into as coaches, you watch them. And then I went on to Whitman-Hanson, Bob Teehan, who was a legendary football coach, Bill Spratt. You just meet so many people, and you saw, especially if you come from a big family, the effect that coaches can have on a life. So I would say that's all of the above,
Absolutely, absolutely. Antron Peebles, got a good question for you. That being said, sometimes you may hear the slogan, "Too many Chiefs, not enough Indians." But back then, what I'm hearing from you is saying that it takes a village to raise a kid. It really does. And back then, do you feel like it was more of people putting their hands in on kids and showing them the ropes? And now it's changed a little bit. Like, people feel like you can't tell my kid anything. Even through the discipline. Like you said, sports brings a lot of discipline.
Mm-hmm.
And it took a lot of people to raise you and get you to where you are today. What do you...
Well, I think the phrase you use is a phrase I've used very often, of course, and I think it comes from a book with the title "It Takes a Village," and it truly did. In the town of Whitman, it was sort of a magical place to grow up. And I mentioned that the night I received the award. Thank you to those volunteers who taught CCD, or who were den mothers, or who were Cub Scout and Boy Scout leaders and coaches. And, again, like my father, a lot of those folks were just coming home from working a hard day shift, and they dedicated themselves. In some ways, and it was a more innocent time, to be perfectly honest with you. I mean, the kids today have so much more to deal with, and there's
do.
much more going on with pay to play too, which
Right.
I've always argued when I was in school about fees and so forth. And the cold hard reality is, it is a different world financially. I always worry about kids like me. You never know how many kids just stop playing ball because they don't want to say, well, we can't afford the fee. I think I'm going to go to work. And they'll never tell you. And there might have been some great athletes in that. So
Right.
I really think that's too bad. And I do believe that, I never ran into it too much because I came through at a certain time. And then when I became older, I'm not really sure a lot of the parents knew what to do with me. I mean, they knew I loved their kids, and I would tell them I loved their kids. But I also was always, keeping an eye on them and making sure they were all right, as were most of my colleagues,
Right.
all of my colleagues. But I do think your point is well taken. It is a different world, but there are still many, many people, and they know who they are out there, who give their time and their effort and care
Right.
about children. And everybody you speak to who's involved in sports could pick out a coach, and it may be an aunt, it may be an uncle, it may be a father, mother, sister, brother. Gender doesn't make any difference anymore. They'll just take you out, and they dedicate their time, and that's wonderful.
Right.
Yeah.
But has it changed?
Yeah, it
though?
has
It's
changed.
changed
It
a little bit.
has.
Like,
Yeah.
'cause the kid, I mean, I know you all probably know, like, you can't say certain things to
Right,
kids. And
right.
You can't, yell at them. And
Right.
how do you, is it hard for you now to,
Again, it wasn't hard for me, and this sounds terrible, probably because I was an English major and an English teacher. My ability to communicate, I was always very careful and very sensitive to the changing time.
right,
Nevertheless, I think that if you get there early, you work hard, love kids, and stay to the end, and you communicate with parents effectively, the vast majority of them will come on board because they're looking for people they can trust to lead their children. It is a more dangerous world we live in. There are people who have to watch their children carefully, and I do not blame them for that, and it's unfortunate. But yes, there are times, and I've seen people get in trouble for saying things that 20 years ago you wouldn't think twice, and maybe even now aren't that, but they're very sensitive. So you do have to be careful
Right,
about
right.
that. Yeah,
Well,
you're right. You are right.
yeah. Congratulations to you, though, man.
Yeah.
You have to adapt. You have to change with the
Right.
times. And
Right.
congratulations to you for doing what you're doing, man. Appreciation to you, and continue to keep doing it, man. We need people like you.
I appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Thank
yes,
you.
sir.
Yeah, I wanted to ask, as far as what was the moment that you knew I want to take a step back and start to kind of move in a different direction in my life, and put down coaching. Was that a hard decision?
Well, when you've coached as long as I have, it was not. I will say that I wasn't ready when I retired from East Bridgewater. I knew I still had some baseball in me. So when the situation over in Whitman-Hanson opened up and Bobby and I talked, I said to my wife, well, what do you think? I just retired from this one. And she said, I think you still have some years and you go ahead. And it was my alma mater. I mean, I'm not sure everybody's aware of it, but the field on that football field up there is named after my best friend who was killed by lightning there on September 11th, 1978, Dennis Michael O'Brien Field. And we played on 2 state championship teams, and we were in high school together. So it was always kind of like a dream of mine if I had an opportunity to go back and help out in some way. As it turned out, they'd fallen on hard times through no fault of their own. We had some coaches who had some unfortunate situations. And so I went back for those. It was going to be, he said, if you come back, we're going to ask you to come back for 4 years. Well, as it turned out, I think I ended up coaching 6 because of COVID. I didn't want to leave the kids.
Right.
I didn't feel. But even the last year I coached, I did resign the year before saying, look, I think you're in good shape. You've got everybody you need. I have 7 grandchildren now. They're growing older, and we do some traveling and babysit for them once a month. We go down into New York for 3 of them, and my wife and I take care of them to give their parents a break. You reach a point where you don't want to be that guy who just kind of hangs around all the time. As long as we were successful, and like my wife said, you'll know. As long as the kids communicated, and we had a ball. I mean, I never had an issue communicating kids right up to the laughter in my practices all day long, but a lot gets done. But it was time, and I told Bobby, look, you need to get Bobby Rogers the AD. I said, you might be time to get somebody new in. And he didn't let me go that year. He spent a couple hours talking to me, but then I found out he had a real collection of young pitchers coming along, which is my forte. And so, Ryan Baker, who's a sophomore, lighting it up down there right now, and the Getchell kid and the House kid. And they have 4 or 5 kids that are college prospects and who knows what from there. So I'm glad I stayed that extra year. But I don't miss the coaching part. I don't miss having to go home in the afternoon and get ready to go up there. But I miss the kids. And it's the same when I left teaching.
Yeah.
I left being in the classroom with young people. I love being on the field, just having a lot of
Right.
laughs and getting things done. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's kind of like you, you got some more years in your coaching since those grandkids are coming up. Your assistants or something.
Yeah.
Like you said, man, those kids, you miss those kids.
They keep you young.
They keep you young.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And really, people say, well, how? There are some people, again, getting back to what you said, they say, well, gee, how can you stand it? There's nothing wrong with kids. They're as great as they ever were.
Absolutely.
You just have to love them, and you just have to let them know everything I have is to make you better. It's not this about me. What do you need from me?
Right.
What do you need to know? And sometimes it's tough love. Sometimes you got to pull them aside and say, this is what you need to do if you want to get better. But if you do it in a kind way and can back it up, and that became easier as I get older. Obviously, when I was 25 or 30, you're trying to sell somebody something, But when you're my age, in your 70s, and you've had some sort of a record with young people,
Right.
they listen. Especially at my alma mater, Whitman Hanson. So
Yeah.
when I came in, I was like one of them.
Yeah.
So I had a little bit of credibility with them.
Right. You understood them.
Yes,
You
I
could
did.
relate.
I knew it, and they had never changed. Same kind of blue-collar kid, funny, not arrogant, work hard. I loved them.
Absolutely.
Just like these Bridgewater kids, same kids.
Same kids.
Yeah.
All right, so we have 7 seconds before we take our second break. You are listening to WARA 1320 AM for Deep Sports Talk. We are continuing highlighting Pat Cronin, the 2023 4 Deep Sports Talk Lifetime Achievement Award winner. We will be right back. More with him right after these messages.
Love
man.
Hey everyone, welcome back to 4 Deep Sports Talk here at 1320 AM WARA. Lucy Cabral, aka Paparazzi, just walked in. All right, so anything you'd like to say?
Yes, here's a shout out to Fall River Federal Little League I just sang the national anthem for their opening day ceremonies over there, and the mayor was there, and everybody in town was there, and it was great to see everybody and all the support in memory of our good friend Jeff Sylvia. So if you recall, we had his brother Jim in the studio a couple weeks ago, and it was his whole family was there. So here's a shout out to the league, and we'll miss you. We'll miss you,
Absolutely.
Jeff. Yes,
Rest
it
in
was
heaven,
very,
rest in
very
heaven.
nice.
Rest in heaven. That's
So I
awesome.
did mention all of you guys too. So
Okay. It's crazy. You was
and I
in
did
Fall River,
post. I am originally from Tiverton.
but you were in
but
Fall River today
yes.
singing. I just came from Fall
Yes.
River.
Did you
I was-
really?
Yeah, I was supporting the young kids in Talbot Middle
great.
School
Oh,
baseball
no
team.
kidding.
Yeah,
No
yeah. I
kidding.
wish I would have knew that.
Yeah, they had their opening day in Kennedy Park,
Okay.
across the street from St. Anne's.
Okay.
And they honored Jeffrey Sylvia, who
Okay.
was the district administrator, and the reason for they exist over there. And so they lit up Government Center, red, white, and blue, in honor of him. So it was quite emotional. His whole family was there, and it was great to see the kids. You know, opening day has always been very, very special to me.
Yeah.
Our kids, you know, growing up, we were really involved. I'd call the kids up to the plate, sing the national anthem before their games.
Right.
My husband would score. So, you know, it's the closest I'll ever get to being Hazel May, but that's okay.
It's okay. It's all about the community, like we were
You
just
got
talking
it.
about. It's
You
what we
got
were just
it.
talking about. The
Yeah.
people in the community. Mr. Cronin. That's
So
great.
we got another call.
Excellent.
Oh, here we go.
Hello, caller. You are next to appear on 4 Deep Sports Talk. Is this Dom?
This is a fan favorite. Yes, this is me.
I kind of figured because I recognize the phone number.
All right. Well, I gotta fix my caller ID then. I have a question for Coach Cronin.
Yes, sir.
Hey, Coach. So I don't know if this was mentioned during the so far in the interview. When AAU started to take off, you know, kids are playing all these elite programs. You know, kind of hurts your pitching and stuff. How did you have to adjust as a coach with all these parents, you know, buying into this AAU stuff, and how did that affect you as far as managing the team?
You know, first of all, it was something that I didn't see coming. It added another ingredient to it as a coach. But again, as I mentioned earlier, you pay attention and you learn to adapt. I finally decided that playing more baseball could not be a bad thing for my kids. Okay? I think the biggest adjustment I had to make for me and for them was to make them understand we're not the tail wagging the dog. We're the dog wagging the tail as a high school program. As a high school program, my kids played ball 6 days a week. And in my belief, if you're running a high school program that's successful, you are teaching 6 days a week, as well as playing. So I always made them understand, yes, I'm glad you're playing ball. You can't, there are rules that will not allow you to miss a practice or go to a game, you know, once you sign on with our program. If you can't make that commitment, well, that's fine. You go and play where you want to play. But this is where you're going to see standings in the Boston Globe. This is where you're going to see the Herald, and you're going to see rankings and the MIAA and the state tournament. You talk about exposure, that's fine. That's the perfect game and all that. But let's get real. This is where it all happens here, and this is where colleges go, Division 1, 2, 3, and so forth. So there's a trade-off. The other thing that I think that we had to adjust to, or try to make an adjustment, was that the AAU programs were wonderful, and I know a lot of the AAU coaches and a lot of the coaches who coach, Dominic, they coach the local batting clubs and so forth. And let me just say, they're very, very good, and they're my friends, and I know them. But what I had to make them understand, or at least their players, there's a certain way that my players conduct themselves. That goes hand in hand with why East Bridgewater and Whitman Hants were successful. You conduct yourself like a man. You say please and thank you. All the things you were taught in the youth leagues and all those programs. You never get so big that you think you're more important. As a matter of fact, I used to tell my players, yeah, you're getting a lot of notoriety. You know what that means? You have more responsibility to conduct yourself according to what a good school citizen should be doing. So that was the other adjustment we had to make. Occasionally I'd get a program in, and they'd come in, and I'd see that they were kind of a little loosey-goosey, and they were getting away with some things that I would have to stop. And I would tell them, look, I don't care what you do over there, and you can go and tell them that, you know, we want things to be run a little differently. And I saw that only happen for a little while. And then what I see now is they're right on board with it. You know, all the programs I see, those kids are coming in, they're yes and please and no thank you, and they know their place in the field. And, you know, you do end up, I always talk about the guy in the beach chair with the big cigar that's going to sit there and start telling me what I should be doing. And God love him, you know, I'm glad he's engaged, but we don't run the show that way. I'm paid as a professional to know what I'm doing and to teach, and thank you very much. You know, I'm always ready to learn from anybody, but that's not how it's going to work. So I think that's what you're talking about. And, you know, once you know the people, the various clubs and what they're doing, but a lot of these kids now, I should say kids, when you're 74, you know, everybody's a kid. But when you see the young people that are working in these, a lot of them have been my former players, and as long as they're teachers and they're teaching, as I said earlier in the conversation, they've got it right. I'm all for it, as long as it doesn't interfere with the high school ball.
Right.
You know?
Little respect goes a long way.
It's huge. It's absolutely huge.
It all deals with accountability.
Yep.
You know, being accountable
Yep.
and, you know, integrity.
Yep.
You know, those things, those kids have to have a little bit of integrity of who they are and what they want to show up as and who they want to be. You know, that's a great thing that, you know, like you say, you're a teacher and you teach them how to be accountable for the decisions, how they want to show up every day as being a baseball player, you know, or whatever sport they're playing. Another question that I have, anybody want, I don't want to cross anybody up on the questions. Another question that I want to ask, like Dom said, those AAU teams are coming and taking some of your great players. They're always recruiting to get the best ones to play on their AAU team. So it takes away from your high school players or some of your players that you have, getting them notoriety. Some players don't get notoriety as other ones when they go and play that AAU. You know, I'm from the South, and I know sports are real big down there. The northeastern area is a little different. What can we do a little bit more to get these kids the opportunity to be seen up here? I feel like I'm from Middleborough, Massachusetts. I've seen some great players, but they're not getting the opportunities to be seen. What can we do if they're not playing AAU to give them the opportunity for the world to see them? Because it's good for our kids to go out there and be successful and come back to the community and let them know, Pat Cronin coached me. You know, and I came from this establishment. I came from this program. And then give back to the community. It's like a circle. How do we get those kids out there that doesn't get the notoriety here?
Well, when Dom asked me to write up a little blurb about, you know, my background, one of the things I focused on was state tournament play. And I was introduced to it again as a player at Whitman Hants. I was fortunate to play on some very good teams with great players, and I just had a role on those. But that's when I got a taste of, you know, we're Eastern Mass champs as far as it went back in 1965 in baseball, and then we beat everybody. And then in football, the following year, I started on that team that was undefeated and was a Class C state champ. And you get a taste of it. And so when I became a coach, I said, this is one way that you can become exposed. And it's why East Bridgewater had not been in the state tournament in 20 years before I took over in 1981. And then they went in, I think, 28 times after that, because I made that a priority for the kids and made them understand it was a priority. That's where the exposure comes, to go into sectional championships and Eastern Mass titles and so forth. And the other thing that I would suggest, and I know they've done it, the MIAA and the Massachusetts Baseball Coaches Association, they run sophomore state all-star games, senior state all-star games.
Okay.
So you want to keep an eye on those. And I also thought, I think it's about time anyway, I have for some time, why not run the all-star games right in Fenway Park? You've got the most iconic park in the country. Why not run some high school events like they run the college events in there,
Right. That's right.
and run the tournaments and expose the kids there?
Let's do it, Pat.
Well, if I had the power, I would do it. And I know,
man.
no, I don't have any, but I know they've heard of this, and now the MIA has approached them. I know the Mass Baseball Coaches Association, Donnie Fredericks is one of the great umpires and was a great baseball coach in Braintree and was kind of a prime mover in baseball. They've approached them on this, and I think they have scheduling issues and so forth. But I do think that is something they should do, is pick these huge venues and showcase kids that
I
way.
agree, man. I definitely agree, because we need that here in the Northeast. I mean, it's a lot of athletes that's good that's not getting the notoriety, and I think that some of the coaches aren't doing their job to even send letters out to these schools to let them know I got a player that possibly can be the next, David Price or pitcher, this needs to happen, and I'm all in for it, and I think they need to hire 4D Sports Talk to get this thing going.
That would actually be a really good idea.
We have more power than we know.
Another call.
Yeah, we actually have to take our last break right now, so we'll be right back.
All right, I have another call. I have another question for Coach when you guys come back.
Okay. All right, we'll be right back with more right after these messages. All right, welcome back to 40 Sports Talk here at 1320 AM WARA. Hey, Dom, you still with us? Dom? You still there?
No,
you're
we can't hear you
you're
now.
breaking up a little, Dom.
All right, well, tell them we're going to do some scores.
We're gonna do some scores.
Hello?
Right.
All right, so before hello? Oh no. All right.
We're gonna have to X
What's
Dom
wrong?
outta
Is it
here.
dead?
Yeah, we're gonna have to X Dom out of here. We'll see
Yeah.
you sometime soon, buddy.
Yeah.
The show goes on.
Getting a nice tan right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Absolutely.
before we continue talking with Pat Cronin, we are gonna go over the baseball and softball scores. Here is Justin Ferreira and Caleb.
Music's up.
Uh.
What happened?
What's going on?
What's going on? Playing the music?
Yeah, I was playing the music.
Did you get the volume up?
Yeah.
Okay, here. This is Caleb here with all the baseball scores.
No music? No music?
Yeah, I have the music on.
Okay, good.
All right, starting off in the Bay State, Braintree had a win, Needham had a win, and Weston had a win. Moving on over to the Cape and Islands, Barnstable had a win, Sandwich had a win, Martha's Vineyard had a win, Sturgis West had a win, and St. John Paul II also had a win. All right, next division, Catholic Central, North Quincy had a win, Masconomet had a win, and Dartmouth had a win. Sliding on over now to Dual County, Waltham had a win, Lincoln Sudbury had a win, Cambridge had a win, Weston also won. Now to the Hockomock League, Taunton had a win, Mansfield had a win, Oliver Ames also had a win. Now for the Mayflower League, Upper Cape had a win. On to the Middlesex League, Belmont, Woburn, Lexington, and Watertown all won. Now to the Patriot League, North Quincy won, as did Braintree. Now over to the South Coast, Greater New Bedford won, Old Rochester won, and then Somerset Berkeley also won. Now on over to the South Shore, Middleborough won, as did Norwell. And then for that last game, Abington won, as did East Bridgewater. Now over to the Southeast Conference, Bridgewater Raynham won, Dartmouth won, Medfield won, Norwood won, Ashland won, Holliston won, and Westwood also won. And now over to Justin here for the softball scores.
Okay. All right. So for softball, in Bay State, Framingham, Brookline, Braintree. In Capes and Islands, Falmouth, Abington. In East Bridgewater. In southeastern Bridgewater, Dartmouth. In Tri-Valley, Midfield, Norwood, Ashland, Holliston, and Westwood. And Nauset. In Catholic Central, Braintree, Crisco Ray, and Bishop Stang. In Hockomock, Taunton, Staunton, and Oliver Ames. In South Shore, Crisco Ray, Abington, East Bridgewater, and Middleborough. In Southeastern, Bishop Stang and Bridgewater Raynham. In Tri-Valley, Framingham, Medfield, Westwood, Norwood, and Norton. And that's all for softball.
All right. So.
There it is. You have it.
All right. So I got more questions I wanted to ask you, Pat. So, did you have any team rituals for your players while you were coaching?
Yeah, we all, we had a number of things that we did. I'm a firm believer that if you have repetitive exercises and skill drills and just the way you approach things, it makes the learning easier. Everything was geared to making the learning easier and effective. So, for instance, I never touched equipment. That's and that was not because I couldn't. I just felt, listen, I'm here to help you folks out. I expect you to do this when you're in Little League and any league you're in. You go and get the gear out and you put it out and make sure we're ready to go. My captains would be responsible for assigning that. When we took infield and outfield, we started every day the same way. I hit 3 ground balls with everybody pulled in, and then, we go around 3 times and throw to home plate. And that was to emphasize the name of defenses. No matter what happens, we just don't want the other team to score. So that would reinforce that. And then we would go through our drills regularly. In every practice, I worked group drills where we hit so many ground balls in teams of 3 so that we saved arms. There'd be a batter who learned to hit out of his hand, which is very difficult for kids. Somebody would catch the ball, and then somebody would stand next to the batter. So they got some hitting drills, and they'd do 25 and 25 before we did anything else that day. That's why I think we were always one of the best defensive teams around, and you didn't hurt arms when you did that. We would come in at the beginning of the game and, all put our hands in and yell the school's name and, all the little things that teams do, superstitions and so forth. And the kids buy into that culture, and it promotes, a winning culture, I think.
I wanted to touch upon the point that you brought up about getting exposure up in the north. I'm a big believer in, with down south in Texas, like you look at a lot of the high schools, especially football too. I mean, they're like palaces down there. I mean, they invest a lot of money into it. But I think it also comes down to, these baseball players can practice year-round down south. I mean, the golfers, they have courses open 24/7 year-round. And I think it's harder up here for players to, work on their game. I mean, there's facilities, obviously, inside training and all that, but I think that's definitely probably a factor that plays into it. I mean, you could probably...
Yeah, I think it is a factor. I did factor that in when I think about those questions, but I just feel like in the Northeast is a big concern about professional sports.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of focus on professional sports. But kids have to be kids before they get to professional sports.
Yeah.
Like Coach said, you need that characteristic in building that foundation for these kids, consistency, and that builds character. And you have to do work before you get to the professional sports. So the Celtics and the New England Patriots and the Red Sox and the Bruins, we're focusing on a lot of that up here. We got to focus on the kids.
Yeah.
I don't care where you practice. I don't care if it's in a bathroom. I don't care if it's in a living room. We have to. There's some kids out here that's losing out. That's great kids. They're not only great athletes in the South. They're great athletes up here in the Northeast, and I've seen a lot of them slide through the cracks in Taunton, in Middleborough, and they should be playing at Division I single A schools. Yeah. That's all I'm saying.
No, I agree.
And I know the elements do have its thing, but coaches like Pat Cronin need to be known because he has 5 people in the major leagues, 6 pitchers, 7 pitchers that and they get the opportunity to give these kids a stage.
Well, I do think, getting back to your point, and I didn't pick up on it right away, but I do think it's one of the responsibilities of a coach to promote your program.
The responsibility.
You can't. When I first took over East Bridgewater, it seems like self-promotion, but when you have a program that had not won, it has no credibility. Yeah. And you have to butt heads against someone in a nice way, other programs within the school, and say, wait, we're going to have our little turf, and we'll stay in our lane when it's our turn to stay in our lane, but you have to stay in your lane, and so you have to fight for the turf, and you have to promote that. Yeah. But the other thing, too, is always send out letters. The scouts would send me things, and I'd always put a list, and I'd always put a list of kids who weren't just on my team. If I didn't have any, I'd put a list of all the kids in the area. Very often I have scouts send me back annually, say, we got so many good names, not from kids that just on your team. Yeah. So you've got to promote the whole area. Yeah. And it's part of being a professional, I think, and so we've been very successful at that. I've written so many recommendations, and as you said, I've had and I also went to, and I don't talk about me, but this was because how you become a better coach. I went to every camp and clinic I could go to. The Massachusetts Baseball Coaches Association each year taught me so much about coaching. And then I would go coach at Ted Williams's camp, and I would coach at Rich Gedman's camp, and I would go and coach at anybody during the summer, and I would just learn, which made me better for my kids, you know, and then promote them.
And then it's the relationships you gain.
Yeah.
Right, yeah,
You know, and it's
Network.
It's
Yeah.
networking.
Yeah.
It's
Right.
not about us.
right,
It's about the kids.
Yep.
And they see you out there too, you know.
Yeah, it's about
Right.
the kids, man.
yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
I do think the short season makes it difficult. I'm
not-
sorry.
Yeah,
you
I'm
know.
not saying they don't do it though, Coach. You know.
Oh, there are many,
He
many.
does it.
Believe me, my colleagues
Many
all,
more.
do it. You just don't know about it. They do. Many.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually wanted to ask you, what advice can you give to any younger athletes that wanted to try out for the baseball team someday?
Well, I think that you know, make sure you get the information. I think first of all, you know, something very practical is a lot of young people and parents don't follow the school websites and aren't aware of what's going on in the athletic programs.
Right.
So I think it's very important that you stay in touch on their website and find out, and don't be afraid to call the athletic director. That's what the AD's here for.
Right.
Call the AD and say, when are the tryouts? What is it my son and daughter always needs when he or she shows up at these various programs? And I think the sooner you get into them, the better. If you go into your freshman year, you're going to be far better off than if you wait. So you get into the pipeline and you understand how things work, because there's a transition. So I think information is extremely important, and I think anytime you can play to get better
Right.
for the various programs, do that. You know?
Absolutely.
So do you guys have any other questions?
I actually have a question. What is one piece of advice you want to give aspiring coaches?
Well, I think that if you're going to become a coach, you go all in. And it's just, as I said before, it goes back to teaching. If you're going to become a coach, then two things I noticed with the best coaches that I watched to learn from, and they were on a major league level, and they were in a college level, and any level. One, they all were great communicators. Now, it doesn't mean that they actually were the best speakers in the whole world. It just meant they knew how to communicate with young people. And secondly, they knew what they were talking about because they weren't afraid to go ask someone else, how do I get better at this? What do I need to do to teach? So I would say if you're going to become a coach, do the kids a favor and do yourself a favor. Go to clinics, look to those who have gone before you who know something. Read as much as you can, pay attention, always be open to learn, and learn to communicate, and love young people if you go in. If you're not going to love young people and you're in it for the wrong reasons, go do something else. I mean, it's all...
Do your job.
It's what it's about.
Yeah.
You know, do something else. But you got to really love young people. I believe that. Otherwise, let someone else take over.
Yeah, so we actually have to get going. So thank you so much, Pat, for coming on the show. And Antron, we're so stoked to have you.
Man, I'm stoked to be here. It's fun.
There'll be more opportunities in
Hey,
the
I
coming
appreciate
weeks.
it.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
My man.
Looking
Great
forward
job,
to it.
team.
Thank you
Thank
very
you
much.
so much, Pat.
Thank you
And
very
with
much.
that,
Catherine Conley, aka KC, Lucy Cabral, Sean Sylvia, Justin Ferreira, Caleb Tremblay, and Antron Peebles. We'll see you next time on 4 Deep Sports Talk.